Okay, so Project Hail Mary, it's probably one of the most hyped sci-fi movies coming out, and honestly, for good reason. It's this incredible, thrilling story. But what really makes it stand out, what makes it so special, is that a ton of the mind-blowing science you see is actually grounded in reality. So today, let's break it down. We're going to look at how it all actually works.
So let's get into it. At its core, this whole story is about a hero you can really root for, right? It's not some grizzled astronaut or a super soldier. No, it's a school teacher who gets handed, the single most important mission in the history of humanity. No pressure. And that right there, that's the question that makes this whole thing so genius. You take this absolutely massive, world-ending problem and you give it to a totally normal person. It just immediately makes you put yourself in their shoes and ask, okay, what would I do in that situation? Now, of course, the story comes from the mind of Andy Weir, the same guy who wrote The Martian, and you've got Ryan Gosling bringing it to life on the big screen. But honestly, even with all that star power, the real star of this show, it's the science. All right, so let's dig into that science. First up, we got to talk about the first huge problem, the trip itself. We're not just talking about a quick hop to another planet here. No, this is a mission to a whole different star system. And just to give you a sense of scale here, think about this. A trip to Mars, which for us is a huge deal, takes what, 7 to 9 months? Well, the Hail Mary is headed for the Tau Ceti system, and that journey, it takes 13 years, a whole 13 years. Yeah, so to put that into perspective, our fastest spacecraft right now, they travel at just 0.004% of the speed of light. I mean, it sounds fast to us, right? But on a cosmic level, that's like a snail's pace. To make this trip even possible, the ship in the movie has to get way, way closer to the speed of light. And this is where things get really wild. And we get into one of the coolest ideas in all of physics, time dilation. It's exactly what Einstein talked about. The faster you go through space, the slower you move through time. It's nuts. So because our astronaut is zipping along so close to the speed of light, time literally slows down for him. While 13 years are passing back on Earth. For him, it feels like only 4 years have gone by. Okay, so the physics of the trip makes sense, but what about the biology? I mean, how on earth do you keep a person alive for over a decade, all by themselves in a tiny spaceship? Well, you know the classic sci-fi answer, right? Cryosleep. You just freeze them, wake them up when they get there. Easy peasy. But this story actually takes a way more believable path. Instead of freezing him, they put him into a medically induced coma. And get this, that's not some crazy future tech. It's something we're literally doing in hospitals right now. Yeah, we already have the ability to keep patients alive in comas for a really long time in our ICUs. It's a totally real medical procedure, usually to let the brain and body heal after something major. So the science here is completely solid. So the actual sci-fi jump here isn't the coma part. It's who's taking care of him. The ship has this whole crew of super advanced robots that are basically his doctors and nurses, keeping him healthy for years on end without any humans around. So he makes it. He survives the trip. But when he finally wakes up, he's faced with a new problem. One that might be even more dangerous than the journey itself. Complete and total isolation. And this isn't just made up for the story. It's a huge, real-world challenge for anyone thinking about long-term space travel. In fact, space agencies like NASA take this so seriously that they run studies in Antarctica to figure out the effects of long-term isolation. Why Antarctica? Well, those remote, harsh research stations are basically the best simulation we've got on Earth for what a mission to Mars or even further would feel like. And the results they're getting from these studies? They're kind of scary. One study showed that after only 14 months of being isolated, a part of the brain called the hippocampus, that's your memory center, it actually shrank by about 7%. Just let that sink in. The very part of your brain that helps you remember things is physically getting smaller. So that creates a huge problem for our hero, right? The entire fate of humanity is on his shoulders. He needs to solve these incredibly complex problems, but his own brain is literally working against him. How is he supposed to pull this off? And this is where the story really brings it home with this incredibly powerful, hopeful message. I mean, he's got to overcome the distance, the biology, the damage to his own mind, but the solution isn't something he just finds by digging deep inside himself. Turns out, he's not alone. He makes first contact and finds a partner in literally the last place you'd ever expect. And he ends up trying to save not just our world,
but an entire other alien world with, well, with the coolest alien in the universe, basically.
And that's what I've always loved most about this story. It's this massive, exciting adventure, for sure. But when you get right down to it, it's just this powerful reminder. It tells us that no matter how big the problem is, no matter how impossible it all seems, we can get through it if we do it together.
It is going to be absolutely incredible to see on a giant screen. So yeah, definitely check out Project Hail Mary when it comes to theaters and IMAX on March 20th, 2026.
And that really just leaves us with one final thought, doesn't it? The whole story is about the power of working together when the odds feel impossible. So the question it kind of leaves for us is, what's the next hard thing we need to solve, right here on Earth, together? Something to think about. Thanks for joining me.